Good morning. Is it my turn to do this, Connie?
You and Micah have the show. I'm just in the background recording.
Okay,
I'm the
so
gopher
it's
today.
10:01, Tuesday, June 18th. Time and date of the ADW subcommittee meeting. The agenda called for a roll call, and I see Micah,
Present.
Connie is there, and we have stakeholders, but I'm not gonna take a roll call on stakeholders. Any other commissioner on the line? On the call?
No.
That's it.
That's it. Okay. Is there a motion to approve the agenda?
I so move.
Second.
Anyone? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
So approved. There's no old business, all new business today. And the one item in our agenda is to discuss the quarterly ADW handle reporting to the ORC website. I believe that's Micah's show.
Thank you, Commissioner Conde. Micah Lloyd, Director of Mutuals with the Oregon Racing Commission. This agenda item is regarding the Oregon Racing Commission's public reporting of handle for multi-jurisdictional hubs, also known as ADWs. There is no Oregon revised statute or Oregon administrative rule requiring publishing the ADW handle data. I believe we are the only racing commission that does so. However, there is over a decade of historical precedence in doing so. Considering other jurisdictions do not openly share such data, coupled with confidentiality concerns for those licensees not publicly traded, I felt it was time to review our procedure with an eye towards maintaining transparency while still serving our citizenry and licensees. Currently, the ORC internally records the daily handle data for each ADW. Each week, that data is reconciled and confirmed with each ADW, and assessed fees are calculated. Each quarter, the data is once again confirmed with each ADW. The data is then published on our website after the publicly traded companies have filed their quarterly statements to the public. In that ORC published report, there are line items for each ADW. The published information can be found on the Advanced Deposit Wagering section of the ORC's official website. It's an important note, though, separate Greyhound reporting, which is a subset of the entire handle figure, can still be found on that same page in a separate report. There will be no change to how the ORC reports Greyhound handle. Some options for consideration that I have put together. Number one, make no changes. Each ADW's total quarterly handle is reported separately. Number two, only report the total handle as an aggregate number for all ADWs for each quarter. Number three, the same as number two, but also include the assessed fees, the tax, as well as the license fees, the $200 a day for operating, also as aggregate totals. Or number four, an idea I haven't come up with yet, open for discussion. I've shared these thoughts with all the licensees and invited them to attend this committee meeting. I've had a fair amount of feedback that I can break down into two separate thoughts. One, change the reporting. There's a desire to keep the business metrics and performances private. And number two, don't change. There's a wanting to keep things the same so as to better observe how all the companies are performing. That is a general nutshell of the discussion points. I yield the floor back to the committee chair for questions.
Well, my only question or concern is maybe can you repeat from your initial statement what's the impetus for the change? What's your concern that made you or made the commission perhaps consider that we had to change the reporting as it is now?
There was some input from ADWs regarding the confidentiality of the data, considering they are not publicly traded entities.
Mm-hmm.
In a
Pretty
nutshell.
valid concern. Okay. So I would love to hear from the stakeholders if anyone has a strong disagreement. Micah, I can tell you from your short presentation, my knee-jerk reaction, I think it's to maybe change it and incorporate only the totals, total handle, total tax assessments and licensing fees. That way the citizenry knows the magnitude of what we do, and they know the benefit to the community in terms of taxes and licensing fees. But I would love to hear from stakeholders if anyone think that's a bad idea, to speak now or forever hold their peace.
Good afternoon, Commissioner. I'm Andrew Silver from Churchill Downs Technology Initiatives Company, which operates Twin Spires in addition to other brands. I don't want to speak out of turn, but hearing some silence, I figured I would speak up. I don't think there's a hand-raising mechanism on this meeting.
No, and it's a subcommittee meeting, a little bit more informal than the public hearing. So please proceed.
Great. Well, I appreciate your time. Appreciate commission staff, of course. I think Churchill and Twin Spires are kind of a mind toward more transparency rather than less here. I think to address one comment that I think Mr. Lloyd made, that information isn't reported by other racing commissions. I think that I appreciate the opportunity to maybe submit some information that's not correct. I was on the I was at a minimum on the New York State Gaming Commission's website yesterday, and that state's reporting is easily accessible. I did not come to this meeting prepared to list additional states in which reporting takes place, but I would submit that transparency is more the norm than not. I also think that in a day and age where sports and casino wagering has risen to prominence and got a lot of attention in the U.S., I think that level of reporting is commonplace on the sports and casino side of things. So I think that from a kind of transparency perspective, we'd be taking a step backward by making this change.
Okay, thank you.
And dovetailing on top of that, thank you for the correction, Andrew. I haven't touched all of the racing commissions to view their data. The other multi-jurisdictional hub licensee in North Dakota is the sole, I guess the competitor agency or racing commission to what our offerings are. They do not publish their information. Just wanted to make sure that was out there too.
Understood. I didn't appreciate that your comparison was solely against North Dakota. I do, however, think that New York's licensure is a multi-state licensure of some sort, although it might not be directly comparable to Oregon's.
So, if I might comment, I'm one of the members that probably feels less reporting or aggregate reporting is a little more appropriate for our individual situation. We're a privately funded company, so we have private equity firms and others who would like to see the details of their investments held as reasonably close to the vest as possible. We're also someone investing actively in trying to find ways to bring new players and new forms of handle and new types of entertainment aligned with horse racing. And our numbers, as reported, are not economically reflected of the nature of our profit and loss as a company in the same way that some of the public companies are that are traditional ADWs. And that results in, when we enter into business negotiations with partners, a lot of confusion about the nature of our profit and loss. And we spend a lot of time trying to explain to partners how our business works in order to complete a business contract. And I have found that having that information public has actually impeded us in a number of cases or put barriers in front of that. And for us, it would be better to have that information private and then share that with the organizations we're working with. I fully agree. The public should be informed about the industry's performance, the tax revenues being generated, and how it's going overall. But our perspective would be, it doesn't actually, we don't see a benefit as an organization to have that information being published in a way that is kind of outside of our control, that we later have to explain differently to third parties. So we'd prefer it be private if possible. Just our 2 cents.
Would you mind identifying yourself for the record, Russell?
Oh, sorry, Russell Fine, Gameplay Network.
Thank you.
This is Will Alampievich. Sorry, I can't get my camera working. Hopefully you can hear me okay. I echo what Andrew Silver said. Transparency is important. I'm the COO of AmWest Entertainment. We operate AmWager. We are happy with the status quo and would like to continue to publicly share the information. If for whatever reason this group or the Oregon Racing Commission decides to change that, I would hope that the information would be at least made internally available to the other ADWs.
This
Okay.
is Gene Shabrir with First Technologies, ExpressBet, FirstBet, and a few other affiliates. You know, I see no reason for a change. I appreciate the fact that these numbers are available to us. I guess I'm falling in behind Will and Andrew.
Okay. Any other comment? I don't mean to close
Yes,
the comment section.
two brief comments, Commissioner. I guess to the extent the commissioner the commission is considering a change here. Again, I would ask for the opportunity to submit some additional information on how other jurisdictions this reporting actually is visible, both on the horse and comparable sports casino side of things. And also as a fallback position, I'll echo with what Will from AmWest said, that the request that the information be internally available. But again, we're firmly on the side of transparency here.
Okay, so maybe to delineate the issue better, we're only talking about whether we report those itemized handles on the website. The fact that the other stakeholders will have access to that information is not in question now. I think that will continue to be so. Perhaps the question that I have in terms of the transparency is, what interest or what benefit would an Oregon citizen have of knowing how much handle company A takes versus company B, when it would appear that it is the totals and the total taxation and fee assessments what really concerns the citizenry. Maybe more is better regardless. But in terms of what the interests that are affected or the citizenry's interests, I don't see why an itemization of that handle needs to be reported. But I understand the bigger issue of transparency as a theme and as an important core value of the commission. That doesn't mean that we will share 100% of everything, single thing that we handle, because some of those have proprietary issues attached to them, or are just not of great concern to the public. But that's the only thing I'm me personally am considering now in view of the comments. Micah or Connie, any more comments or any proposed actions here today, or is this something that we should consider for maybe next month? Are we planning on bringing a proposal to the commission on Thursday?
Commissioner Condi, thank you very much. Connie Wynn for the record. I think if we come to a consensus, we should bring it up at this meeting. If we don't, we should let people know we're in discussion. Just a few more points. First of all, I'd like to see if our esteemed colleague, Mr. Fine, would be okay if we shared the information to all ADWs on a quarterly basis, but then did the aggregate to the public facing with the additional information on the taxes, which we have not previously shared.
Yeah, I don't have an issue with that. Many of the companies that I work with actually do share those numbers with me and vice versa because we have business relationships. So that's not a problem. But I think the public, as Commissioner Conde said, that's they don't have the same context. But I wouldn't have a problem with that.
So the only other thing I would mention beforehand is I did talk to our legal counsel on this. And her initial thoughts are, yes, for a private company, this is confidential information. However, we've set a little bit of a precedence by releasing it in the past. What that means is if someone came up with a public records request, although we could say it's confidential information, we may be challenged on it based on prior action. She did not think that that was something that would happen, but wanted us to be aware that could possibly happen.
Okay.
That's the only
I want
comment I have.
Thank you, Connie. I want to be clear on my comments and thank you for sharing that assessment by our attorney. I don't think the information is confidential, and if we get a public records request, definitely the information must be handled over to the person requesting it. I think that's where the transparency lies. We're not hiding anything. The question here is whether we proactively want to communicate to the world through the interwebs that information. And that's where I see a potential harm to the private ADWs. Connie or Micah, can you refresh my recollection? What's the ratio of private versus public ADWs? How many public, how many private?
I would say, there's 7 of them, so I can't say 50-50. 1, 2, 3.
Micah, remember the takeovers. When you take into account the takeovers that we've had, I think
Oh,
we
yeah.
only have one private one left.
No. Naira is a.
Oh, Naira, that's right, 2. Sorry.
You're right. The takeovers. So we have 2 non-public. Yeah.
Mike, I made you do math in public. I apologize for that.
2 out of 7. Oh,
Although
goodness.
you're a poker player, you know how to do math real quick.
19%, sir.
Okay.
Would it be possible to respond to the commissioner's question of a few
Yes.
minutes ago on public interest in having it broken out by operator as opposed to public interest of it being reported in the aggregate?
Yeah,
You,
please.
you did that. You did ask that question a few minutes ago,
Mhm.
and I mean I think that I far be it for me to speak on behalf of the people of Oregon sitting here in Louisville, Kentucky, but I mean I do think that ADW is a highly regulated industry, just like any online wagering, and I think people in these states in which in states like Oregon in which ADW is offered and licensed would like to see which businesses specifically are doing a certain level of business and contributing what levels of taxpayer funds. So I think that the public breaking it out in a public facing manner does inform the public in a manner over and above just providing one single aggregate number for the industry.
I understand that there could be a benefit indeed. And again, the information under this proposed rule, the information will be available to anyone that wants to see it. It's only whether we voluntarily and proactively publish it ahead of time. And I and anyone, please, this is more a conversation. The Zoom aspect of it doesn't allow the conversation to flow. But I encourage anyone to jump in, and especially Connie and Micah. Uh, I I I do not see any harm to the publicly held ADWs and the larger the ADWs by either the rule that we have now or the new rule, but I do see a harm on the private ADWs if we keep doing what we're doing. And as I see it right now, on one side I have no harm to anyone, and on one side, on the other, I have harm to at least one or two. And that's where my mindset is right now, especially when we're not making the information confidential. Connie, I know that came about in your conversation with council, but I would be very hesitant and move against any such rule that would make that confidential. I think the income of the companies we regulate should be open and should be published upon request. But Mike and Connie or anyone else that want to comment, I don't know if we're ready to vote on this, and who would vote on this? Micah, Connie, and I?
Yeah, that would be it. And Commissioner Conde, I have a correction. Wes stated earlier, there actually are three non-public entities, Gameplay Network, Naira, and Amwest Entertainment, although Will, who's on the board here, has put his hat in the ring of wanting to leave things the way they are. Don't want to speak for you, Will, but I just wanted to set the record straight.
Okay.
If a public records request was to be submitted, would that information be posted to the ORC website, or would it be shared with the recipient of the public records request?
I believe it would be shared with the propounder of the request. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's a nice thing to be available to a member of the public who's willing to jump through the hoop of making a public record request, but I think would represent a step backward from a transparency perspective.
Commissioner Condi, I would just say for the record, I'm on the fence here. I do agree that if we change it, we need to add something if we're taking something away, and also make them available through public records requests, as you said. I'm not sure that we're ready to make a decision right now either. Although at the end of the day, it's the commissioners as a whole that have the final vote. All we're doing is recommending if we discuss this with the full commission, and if we ask them to have a vote on it, or if we just tell them we're considering it and maybe have an open discussion with the other commissioners to see what their feelings are.
Yeah, I'm on the fence as well. I'm making the counterpoint, perhaps, just because it's the debate that I have in mind. As you mentioned at the end there, and Micah, jump in here, please. I think it would be more advisable to have another meeting on this, perhaps next month or in August. And in the meantime, the commission can research more specifically and more in detail, what other jurisdictions are doing, and B, perhaps get a little feedback from the public or other stakeholders. Where are the tribes on this? Where are the Grants Pass? And it's not necessarily that it pertains to them. This is an ADW issue, but the issue of transparency is something that I don't take for granted, and Andrew made a very, very good point. So even though I feel, again, my knee-jerk reaction is that we would be okay by not publishing the detail on the website and just making it available. Transparency is at the forefront of our values, and I think we need to do a little bit more research before we take a vote on this.
So I'm just gonna add one note, or a suggestion. Micah, option D could include that the ADWs can opt in or out of reporting their numbers. So it doesn't have to be all or nothing necessarily. As a possibility to
Are you
consider.
suggesting like ADW A, B, C, all other?
Just non-reporting or
automatically?
something, or available via freedom of information. And freedom of information is really nothing more than an email to the ORC saying, this is who I am, I'd like some information, right? This is not a complicated process for a consumer. We've availed ourselves of it a number of times, and it was quite easy to do. It just required that the party that wanted the information identified themselves and said, I would like to know. But the information was readily available.
Okay.
So that could be an option B. And I will note, I agree with Andrew, many jurisdictions are reporting, but we are also licensed in some that are also not reporting. So we are licensed in both situations with different states.
Okay, so another
Wait.
thing that we can do, Micah, and Connie, the commission should look more into that option D presented by Russell. It makes some sense, and I would like to explore it. In Oregon, we've always been business forward, business oriented, and we like ADWs to be prosper, and to achieve that, I love when we take a step forward together. So I'm not sensing that togetherness right now. And I would love to dig a little deeper and research a little bit better so that we can present, if we're gonna make a change, we can present something that we can all jump on board. Is that fair?
I believe so. In advance of any changes, I will, unless directed otherwise, continue with the historical method of reporting, which has been kind of on hold for the 2024 season pending this discussion here. Because I don't believe we're going to have any consensus in the next couple of months. And I'm already getting some queries in regards to when that data will be made available.
So yeah, I believe that for 2024, we need to report by June 30th. Do we have a deadline?
There's absolutely no requirement on if and when we report. Generally, at the end of the quarter, it takes several weeks before the public reporting from the public entities are made in their quarterly statements. Once that has been published, then I release our data to our website.
Okay. Yeah, I think that while we have no change, then there's no change in our method. So let's get creative, and let's get back on this subject maybe July or August, and have something in place definitely by the end of Q3 2024. Yeah. Okay. Any other comment? I do not hear any other comments, so do we have, oh, yep.
Make sure we specify that it's open for public comment.
Oh, yes, public comment. Any comment from the public? Not hearing any. Do we have a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
We are adjourned. Thank you, everyone, for the healthy conversation.
Much appreciated.
Thank you.